Hey there, I just thought I'd make a part two. Just want to go over some things that I didn't really go over in part one. I'm going to call it part one now. Yeah, so we talked about in part one, the foundation, where your foundation lying. Are you relying on church father, like this here is Tertullian? He's labeled a church father. Are you treating this as your foundation? In other words, are you forming your opinion and theology based on this? Or are you forming your opinion and theology based on the Bible itself? As Paul pointed out, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets. That's this right here. Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. So that's all this right here. All right. The prophets in the Old Testament, New Testament as well, and the apostles. And the apostles referred a lot of times back to the Old Testament. So in other words, the whole Bible. All right. And Jesus Christ being the chief cornerstone. So basically, the New Testament, some of it was written by the time Ephesians took place, and some of it was not. Actually, let's go ahead. Bear with me here. Let's see here. Yeah, 70 weeks. I'm going to pull up. Let's see here. I'm losing my mind here. Let's see here. Trying to recall what I want to pull up. Oh yeah, so it's not allowing me to go. There we go. Okay, so 70 weeks. All right, I want to pull up a timeline. So where Ephesians that we just read from falls in on the timeline. So. So yeah, so here we go. So Ephesians is written about, okay, there's 1 Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Corinthians. So it's important to get that chronological perspective. Anyway, I'm not finding it. Where did I place that? The dating of Ephesians. Anyway, it's somewhere on here. But anyway, at the time that was written, they had the entire Old Testament and they had several New Testament writings that were already in place. And you had the oral tradition. There's enough there that by then, you can build upon this foundation, what's already written and already in the oral tradition amongst the Jewish people. You can build on that, okay, and do every good work, alrighty, that's needed. So they had everything they needed to do that. We're not talking about the Book of Revelation with the Apocalypse or 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, where he was trying to prepare the Jewish people at the temple for the 1,335-day prophecy, Daniel 12:12. We're not talking about that. That's not the foundation that we're talking about. So in other words, he's not talking about every single book of the New Testament. It was just the things that have been accumulated up to this point that was written that they're able to build upon it. Alrighty. I hope that makes sense. So I want to kind of give an example of, more of a vivid example of talking about in part one. So here the church father, Tertullian, I'm forming my theology and opinions on this. I am treating this as a foundation. All right. But by doing so, this is contrary to what Paul wrote here. He said the apostle and the prophet. Tertullian was not an apostle. And he was not a prophet. He was just somebody who really, he's kind of one of my favorite church fathers, by the way. He really diligently studied. What's interesting about Tertullian, he is the first one in history after the writing of the New Testament to say anything about infant baptism. Irenaeus said nothing about infant baptism. Those who claim that are actually reading into the text that's not there. For example, John 3:8, where the Spirit can go wherever it pleases, that's not baptism in itself. That can happen any time. We see examples of that with Cornelius. We see examples of that with Eusebius, the eunuch in Acts 8. We see in earlier Acts 8, we see example where some experience and some did not, even though they believed in the head who Jesus was. So that's an example where, based on your understanding of John 3:8, the Spirit can go anywhere where it pleases. It's not obligated. Oh, there's a person over there baptized. Boom, I got to go over there no matter what. I'm obligated to go. It does not work that way at all. Okay? I know a lot of people believe that, and that's the problem. God can regenerate anytime, anywhere he wants. He is not restrained by anything we do whatsoever. He can regenerate anytime. And Cornelius is an example of that because he experienced regeneration at some point in his life, and he had that desire to seek God. And how is that possible? Because what he experienced internally. He wasn't even baptized yet. And he was already part of the new covenant. He was talking right to the Lord. You see that? And the only way that's possible is if you have been sanctified. And so here he was, already part of the new covenant, and he wasn't even baptized yet until later on. So he was baptized. So if I treat this as something that I'm going to form my opinion on, then I have made this into a foundation. And the problem doing this is fallible source. This is not divine source. This is not inspired text. And so is it wise to form your theology based on uninspired text, which is Roman Catholics and are guilty as heck of? I'm not trying to be mean-spirited toward Roman Catholics, but that's what they're doing in the name of apostolic succession. But how do you know that some of this wasn't rewritten to for example, I believe Eusebius try to centralize power on Rome? I don't believe that happens so much with writing Tertullian so much. Actually, there are some areas where that's very possible. I have to look into that more. But there are definitely, like Clement of Rome, that has definitely been modified. Irenaeus has definitely been modified. Who else has definitely been modified? Ignatius of Antioch, he had definitely been modified, his writings. So anyway, but if I read this, and then I compare it to the scripture at the final authority, then I'm applying Acts chapter 17, verses 10 to 12, checking the scripture daily, see whether these things are so. Alrighty? And that is the only tradition, by the way, in the New Testament documented where it's been transferred from the Jews to Gentiles. Acts 17, 10 to 12. Alright? It's the only one recorded in the scriptures. Alrighty, and so these passages here you see right in front of your screen, this is sola scriptura. Alrighty, Paul's limiting it, the foundation, in other words, forming your theology and opinions based on the apostles and the prophets, Jesus Christ, alright, being the chief cornerstone, alright, and Peter even talked about this, alrighty. Now keep in mind, Peter's writing to the Jewish Christians in those 5 churches in the passage here. So he's not writing to Gentiles. But anyway, so I hope that's a vivid example. I am applying what Paul said here by taking this writing and comparing it to this and using this as the final authority, because this is inspired text, this is not. Again, this is inspired text, this is not. Obviously, we have to do our homework with inspired text, with the translations and all that, okay, because there's biasness in the translations and so forth, okay? So it takes a little bit of homework. But that is Acts 17, 10 to 12, put into action by comparing it to this and using this the final authority, the final say-so. If there's a discrepancy between this and this, I have to lean on this, alrighty? So, and that's the problem. Like with Roman Catholicism, for example, they form their theology based on church fathers, but there are discrepancies on church fathers. So those in the higher up in authority in the church decide picking which one to choose that you can follow. They can't use Tertullian too much because he's the first one that wrote against infant baptism. So they got to kind of push him off to the side, or they try to avoid quoting the portions where he mentions that. you know. So they're the picking and choosing. So that tells you right there's a problem. If there's discrepancy within the writings of the people that have been labeled church fathers themselves, if there's discrepancy within their writings, that alone tells you there's not a smooth transition there. Alrighty? So that should raise a flag, you know. But because they've been so blinded into thinking that their authoritative and apostolic succession and all that, they cannot see the discrepancy so much. Where the person who relies on sola scriptura, and then they look at the church fathers, recognize that this is fallible sources, they can see the discrepancies more. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, so the key point I want to make here, this is sola scriptura right here. And Paul did not have any in mind the future people outside the apostles and the prophet and Jesus Christ himself. He was not thinking of future people who have been labeled church fathers. He's not thinking of magisterium. He's not thinking of a pope. You know, that was not even in his mind. Notice the word pope is not even here. Not even the word bishop. It's not even in here. It's not built upon what they say. A bishop was somebody who was actually an overseer, and they were just to exercise godliness and try to encourage godliness. That was a key role of an overseer, not a matter so much of doctrine, correction. It was more about godliness. And so you have a pope who has a final say-so authority and considered infallible. That is not what's going on in this passage at all. And you don't see that anywhere in the inspired text, scripture. So, alrighty. So anyway, just want to share some of those thoughts. I hope I just kind of missed some of the key things there in part one. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. And feel free to share. I don't know if anybody's really sharing my video. That's okay. So, but anyway, that's all I have to say. So hope you have an awesome day. Thank you very much.